I'll take your guys' word for it that some of those calls were dicey, but you know what? If you have an ump that's calling a wide strike zone, you got to protect. You got to adapt in baseball. It's okay if you want to complain about the umpire, but just adapt. Life isn't fair, guys. I got news for you. And the fact that Jose Reyes is still with the Mets
and not Adrian Gonzalez
has to be the dumbest thing in the world. Yeah, Gonzalez is hitting .230. He's not great. I think he only has 6 home runs. And I like that Dominic Smith is going to be getting a lot of playing time now because I want to see what the Mets have in him. But the Mets sent down the wrong guy.
The thing that bothered
me... With Cabrera healthy, there's no reason to have Reyes.
Right. But the thing that bothered me about the Adrian Gonzalez thing is that you could have traded him.
You don't know that.
Right. I understand that, but at least put him out there. Someone's going to get desperate. Someone's going to get hurt. Adrian Gonzalez is a good veteran presence. To me, he was just in the wrong system with the Mets. That's it.
I wouldn't go that far that he was in the wrong system, but there's a place for him in the league.
I think he's a DH. I don't think he's a first baseman.
That's fair. That's very fair. So, all right, let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be having an interview with Erik Sherman coming up next. He's the co-author of Davey Johnson's book, My Wild Ride in Baseball and Beyond. But first, I got to tell you about a great show that we have on this station. It's Your Family's Health. It's on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Professors Joan Buckley and Janine Cook-Garrard from the NCC Nursing Department discuss health issues concerning us all. Exclusive Erik Sherman interview coming up next on Beyond the Game on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
June is Men's Health Month. Abdominal aortic aneurysm, also known as AAA, is a leading cause of sudden death for men over 60. Yet, AAA is highly treatable if detected early. A AAA can slowly grow in size over a period of years without showing any signs or symptoms. The larger an aneurysm grows, the greater the chance it will burst or rupture. Most ruptures can be fatal. Warning signs may include intense back or abdominal pain, rapid pulse, nausea, vomiting, excessive sweating, and shock. Major risk factors include a family history of AAA, smoking, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. It is recommended that men between the ages of 65 and 75 who have smoked get a one-time screening test. Men with a family history of AAA should begin screening at age 60. Knowing the risk factors for AAA and getting screened can help save your life. For more information, visit radiologyinfo.org. That's radiologyinfo.org. This health reminder is from the Radiological Society of North America.
Alexa, can you please do my food shopping today?
Food shopping today added to your shopping list.
Alexa, can you do my math homework for me?
I'm not sure.
Alexa, play WHPC.
Play WHPC.
You can now listen to the Voice of Nassau Community College on your Amazon Echo.
Simply say, Alexa, play WHPC.
I am already playing WHPC.
Sorry. So go ahead and buy a silicone steamer in the shape of a faceless melting pig.
Buy a silicone steamer in the shape of a faceless melting pig.
Yeah, that exists. And while you shop, play WHPC.
Or buy a headband with a mullet hair attached to it.
I refuse to buy a headband with mullet hair attached to it.
Yeah, that exists too. Not sure why. But when you buy it, you can play WHPC.
So play WHPC on your Amazon device today.
And thanks for listening to 90.3 WHPC.
You are listening to Beyond the Game on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I am Jacob Volk. Sitting across from me, Eric Fischetti and Joe Ardita. And we are fortunate enough to be joined by Erik Sherman, the co-author of Davey Johnson's book, My Wild Ride in Baseball and Beyond. Eric, how are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic, Jacob. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Doing good.
So we'll go chronologically here. What can you tell us about Johnson's playing career for the Orioles?
Well, that's something that a lot of people forget, or, maybe they weren't around at the time, but he was an all-star second baseman for the Baltimore Orioles from 66 through 72. He went to 4 World Series with the Orioles. They won a couple of them. He was an outstanding second baseman, an all-star a few times, and he really played for a ball club, the Baltimore Orioles, that had an excellent chance of becoming a dynasty every bit as great as the one that the Yankees had a few years back. They won the World Series in 66. They won in 1970, and they went to the World Series but lost to the Mets in 69 and the Pirates in 71, despite having the best record in baseball both of those years. So, I mean, if he had just stopped with his career in Baltimore, he could have looked back and said to himself, geez, that was a great career. 4 World Series and a bunch of All-Star games.
Now, can you lay out for us Johnson's time with the Braves?
Well, it was brief. It was like a shooting star, really. I mean, he left the Orioles after the 72 season. He played hurt for a few years, his final couple of seasons with the Orioles. A couple of collisions at home plate, and he had a bad shoulder. So he goes to Atlanta, and they diagnose the problem. They give him these exercises to do, and he fixes his shoulder. He's teamed up with Hank Aaron and Darrell Evans in Atlanta, and he goes from hitting 16 home runs as a career high at second base to hitting 43, which still stands today as a major league record for home runs in a season by a second baseman. So just played there a couple of years, but he was in the same lineup as Hank Aaron when Aaron surpassed Babe Ruth's 714 home runs to become the all-time leader in home runs. And, the funny thing about it is he was also in the lineup 2 years later in Tokyo, Japan, when Sadahara O surpassed Babe Ruth's 714 home runs. So kind of a Forrest Gump kind of baseball career in that he always seemed to find himself in these historical circumstances in Major League Baseball.
That's good. I like that comparison. That's pretty good.
Me as well. I found that very interesting. So after his brief tenure with the Braves and taking a couple of cues from Hank Aaron there, he moved on to New York. What can you tell us about Johnson's time here as a Met?
Well, you're definitely glossing over some years there. He went to Japan, then he came back. He helped the Phillies make the National League Championship Series in '77, and then he actually got started in managing this independent professional team called the Miami Amigos, which would make a great movie because of the characters that were on that team. Some guys that could only play on weekends, but it was a professional team. But from there, he became a member of the Mets organization. Worked in their farm system, and then began to manage. And he went all the way up to the AAA team, managing the Tidewater team, along with guys like Dwight Gooden and Kevin Mitchell, Lenny Dykstra, Wally Backman. So he had a good sense of the kind of talent that the Mets had on their farm team. So he was the perfect guy to manage the big league club beginning in '84 because he knew what the heck they had in the farm system. And, the Mets had been either a last place team or a next to last place team from 77 through 83. So 7 seasons of really being cellar dwellers. Then he goes to the Mets, and his first year managing the team, they win 90 games. Second year, they win 98. And then the third year in 86, of course, he makes the bold call in spring training that says we're not just going to win, we're going to dominate. Well, they won 108 games during the regular season, won a thrilling series against the Houston Astros in the NLCS. And then in an epic World Series against the Boston Red Sox, with the memorable Mookie game in Game 6, and then they came back from behind in Game 7 to capture the World Series. And there's just so much that can be said about his tenure with the Mets. He stayed as the manager until the start of the 1990 season, but he averaged 96 wins over his time here in New York. So it was an incredibly successful tenure, and certainly the best in Mets history.
Talking to Erik Sherman, the co-author of Davey Johnson's book, My Wild Ride in Baseball and Beyond. So would you be able to describe to us Johnson's time with the Reds?
Well, I laugh because the owner, he worked for a woman named Mart Schott.
Anti-Semite Mart Schott.
Yeah, among other things.
Yeah, exactly. I can say it.
You can say it, Jacob, but she didn't like a lot of people, and a lot of different types of people. But the one thing that she did love, the one living thing that she did love was was first Shotzi, her first dog, and then Shotzi too. And she was suspended the first year from baseball when Davey took over the club in I want to say 93. So she would have her dog Shotzi deliver messages to Davey in the dugout, and they would be signed licks and kisses and stuff like that. Shotzi, just a bizarre woman. I mean, we named the chapter of his time with the Reds the Red Menace. But,
wow, nice.
But every team that he ever managed was successful. He turned them around right away, and the Reds were no exception. I mean, they were not a good ball club when he took over.
They stunk.
And he turned that organization around, and they were in his second year. They were very close to making the World Series, but were knocked out of the NLCS by a terrific Atlanta Braves team.
All right, now Johnson went back to where it all started, and he began managing for the Baltimore Orioles. Can you talk about his tenure over there?
Well, it was his dream job. He was going back home. The one baseball person that probably had the greatest influence on him was Earl Weaver, who was his manager when he was a player with the Orioles. So now he's going back home, and the Orioles had some lean years. So he was going back to try and turn them around, and he did again. Taking them to the American League Championship Series, and then also a division series. And he probably helped make them the best team in baseball in '97. They fell short. They were knocked out by really a good but inferior Cleveland Indians team. But if they could have gotten past Cleveland, I think they certainly would have beaten the Florida Marlins in the World Series. But the big story there really was his relationship with Peter Angelos, which still isn't good. All these years later, they really don't have a relationship. And Angelos, to say the least, meddled a lot into what Davey was doing. And Davey kind of talks about throughout the book how managers that are successful, there's oftentimes a great deal of jealousy from general managers and even owners. And I think that was the case with Angelos. He started to meddle, with player personnel decisions and, fines that Davey would hand down, and it got personal. It really did. I mean, it kind of seeped down into Davey's family life a little bit, where Angelos was, kind of brought Davey's wife into it a little bit with a charity that she was running, and so it got ugly, and it's all detailed in the book.
So, would you be able to talk to us about Davey's time with the Dodgers?
Well, it was, of his 5 managerial stints, that was probably the least newsworthy. He improved the club again, but that was the only team he didn't take to the playoffs. But that was also a very tough time for him in his personal life. He had a daughter